What's up everybody, I'm Jaspreet Singh, and mortgage rates have doubled since the beginning part of 2022, making it extremely difficult for anybody to buy a home because while home prices are still cooling off, we're still seeing an average rise in home prices. This is not surprisingly creating a lot of uncertainty in the housing market. Are we about to see housing prices crash? Are we going to see 10% mortgage rates soon? And when are we going to see more homes get built? This housing market topic is close to a lot of people's hearts because so many people look at home ownership as the American dream. It's the way that you can build wealth, and it's the way that if you can pay down your home, that you will never have to worry about a housing payment again, so you can build generational wealth. Well, with the changing dynamics of the market and the economy, there are three things that I need you to be aware of if you want to own a home. The first part is really understanding that the home that you live in is a liability more than it is an asset, because until you sell your home is just a money pit. You buy this home, you put down cash for a down payment, and then you're paying every single month for your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, your kitchen upgrades, your bathroom upgrades, and all the other maintenance for the property, and you don't get any return until you sell the property, and then you have to hope that you can sell your home for a profit because home prices don't always go up. The whole idea of your home being an asset is, if you're going to live in a home, why would you just want to throw your money away in rent, making your landlord richer, when you can build equity in your home? Because when you're paying rent, well, now you're paying your landlord, who's now using your rent to pay off their mortgage. So why don't you just pay off the mortgage for yourself? And that makes sense if you can afford it. However, what you also have to understand is, when you're getting a mortgage for the home, you're also making your banker richer. Like if you get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, well, for the first 17 years of that mortgage, the majority of your mortgage payment isn't going to make you equity or build you equity in your home. It's going to pay interest for your banker. So for the first decade and a half, you are paying the bulk of your now mortgage payment just to make your banker richer, instead of actually building equity in your home, because the way the mortgages are structured, they're front loaded with interest. So every payment that you make, the bulk of it, the majority of it, is actually going just to pay interest on your home instead of actually building equity in your home. I'm a licensed real estate salesperson. I got my real estate salesperson's license when I was 20. And one of the things that you learn when you're a real estate salesperson is that your home that you live in is an investment, it's an asset. And so when somebody is looking to buy this home, you have to tell them, hey, this is a big investment for you. It is the biggest investment that the majority of Americans will ever make. And if this home that you live in is an investment, maybe you can stretch yourself a little bit thinner. Maybe you can go a little bit bigger. Because, I mean, it's an investment after all, right? I mean, it's going to make you money. You're going to be able to pass it down. You're going to be able to pay it off one day. And so what happens to so many people is they end up going too big. They stretch themselves too thin because they get caught up in this idea that the home that you live in is an asset. It's an investment. And so you want something bigger, something nicer. But what ends up happening is your real estate agent gets a bigger check, your mortgage banker gets a bigger check, and your contractor gets paid more because there's more renovations that they're going to have to do, and then you are left with the bill. And if you can't afford it, well, now you're sacrificing making real investments in things like real estate investment properties that you buy for the sole purpose of making money, investing in things like stocks, investing in things like startups, investing in things like your own business ideas, investing in things like your retirement fund, investing in things like your kids' college plan, all because you wanted a bigger home today. Now, it's nice to have a big home. I want you to have a big home. There's nothing wrong with owning a home, but the key is understanding what your home is. The way that I look at it is, a home is just like a shirt. I buy shirts because I like it and because I can afford it. I don't buy shirts thinking, what's the resale value of my shirt? If you want to buy a home, the way that I want you to think about it is, what is a home that you love, that you want to build memories in, and that you can afford? If you can do all three of those things, it's a home that you love, you can afford it, and you want to build memories there, then go out and buy it. But you have to actually be able to afford it. Because when you are gambling with your family's well-being, with the home that you live in, well, now everybody's gambling and everybody's going to pay the price, because now you think that your home is an asset, but it's actually a liability. It is a money pit. It's going to keep sucking money from you until you ultimately sell the home. And if you can't afford it, well, now you're sacrificing your real wealth just so you can think that you have wealth. This brings me to topic number 2, which is, should you buy a home now before it's too late? Because you keep hearing of things like big corporations, BlackRock is buying up all the homes, mortgage rates keep going up, home prices keep going up. If it's going to become more and more expensive to buy a home, should you buy now or should you wait for a market crash and then come in and buy a home? The answer is no. Do not try to time the market when it comes to you buying the home that you live in. Again, what I just said in the beginning of the video, we're not talking about buying an investment property here. We're talking about the home that you live in, something that you want to create memories in, something that you want to actually use, something that you want to love. And so the key here is you got to make sure that you can afford the home. Whatever's going on in the market should not dictate the home buying decisions because you're not buying it for the sole purpose of making money. The key is you have to be able to afford it. Now, if you do want to get a better understanding of what's going on in the housing market, well, the housing market can go one of two ways. And this is going to depend on what the Federal Reserve Bank does, because either interest rates are going to break or inflation is going to break. So what I mean by that is the Federal Reserve Bank is right now working to fight off this record high inflation. And in order to fight off this record high inflation, they're being forced to raise interest rates. So if the Federal Reserve Bank is forced to continue raising interest rates and they keep jacking up interest rates, either inflation is going to break or the housing market is going to break, meaning interest rates are going to break. And I don't know what's going to happen first. Either they're going to start jacking up interest rates even more. They're scheduled to raise interest rates again in July. They say they're going to do it multiple more times in 2022. But if inflation doesn't start going down rapidly, well, then you can bet the housing prices are probably going to break, because eventually home prices are going to become unsustainable with the higher mortgage rates. However, if you do see inflation start to come down rapidly, or if we see a massive slowdown in the economy and the Fed says, okay, we don't want to keep raising interest rates the way that we are now, and maybe the Fed starts cutting interest rates, well, now that makes buying a home less expensive because mortgage rates have come down, and this could push home prices even higher. This is where it's impossible to try to time the market and try to guess what's going to happen, because you have this X factor, the Federal Reserve Bank, where we can predict and guess and we can say what they should do, but that doesn't mean that's actually what they're going to do. So instead of trying to time the market with your livelihood, with your family, understand that you should not try to time the market for the home that you want to live in. Now, if you're talking about buying a rental property, now you can get more nitty-gritty in understanding the macros of the economy and understanding what's going on with interest rates, what's going on with inflation. But if you're talking about buying a home for your family, the key thing is, can you afford it? If interest rates go down in the future, well, then you can refinance and start saving on your monthly payments then. The key is you want to understand the difference between buying a home to live in and buying an investment property, which you're buying for the purposes of making money. Your home is something that you use. It's a liability, not like an investment property. Now, I've been hinting at this all video, but if you want to be able to buy a home, you have to be able to afford it. But the question is, how do you know if you can afford a home or not? And this means three different things. First, you have to be able to afford the monthly payments, you have to be able to afford the down payment, and you have to be able to afford the move-in costs. Let me start here with the move-in costs, because this one often gets overlooked, but it's a very important cost. Because now, in order to move into this new dream home that you have, the first thing that you have to understand is it's going to cost money to move in. Like, you're going to have to get movers potentially. You're going to have to hire a truck. You may need to hire some labor to help you move your stuff in. Then once you get your stuff in, you got to think, are you going to want to renovate the home? Are there going to be changes? Are you going to want to update the kitchen? Are you going to want to update the basement? Are you going to want to do certain things? If so, start factoring that in. Third, you got to talk to your spouse. Are you going to want to buy new furniture? Because this can get very expensive very fast. Just take a look at furniture prices nowadays. It's extremely expensive. And so if you plan on renovating and buying new furniture, well, you better have a budget for that. So plan for this beforehand and know what the move-in costs are. The second thing is you got to be able to afford the down payment. Now, the best case scenario with the down payment is you can come in with 20% down or more. That way now you can get the best interest rates. You don't have to worry about paying PMI, which is an extra insurance that you have to pay for the bank, just in case that you default and you go into foreclosure. The PMI that you pay for pays for the bank's insurance, so they will get their money back in case they have to foreclose on you. If you don't have 20% down, then you could be subject to PMI and you have other fees that you have to pay. So the best case scenario is to come in with 20% down. Now I understand that many people don't want to wait. Many of you probably don't want to wait until you have 20% down in order to buy a home. So if you want to buy a home, at the very least, you want to put down 10%. That way you have some skin in the game, you have some equity in the game. That way if home prices do come down, you're not going to immediately be underwater, because you never want to have to worry about foreclosure. You never want to have to worry about defaults. You want to have skin in the game. That way you are okay. And yeah, that requires more sacrifice because you're going to need more cash today. However, it's the whole idea of living financially free, because if you think of your home as a true liability, not something that you're buying for the purposes of making money, well, then you want to pay it off as quick as possible. Because now, as soon as you pay off this home, you have less stress, less things you have to worry about, and now you can worry about buying more assets that are actually making money, that you're buying for the purpose of making money. So if that's the way that you look at your home, you want to have an actual down payment. That way now, you have skin in the game and you're faster and quicker at paying it off. And the third factor that you have to look at is your monthly payment, where now your mortgage payment is going to be a portion of the income that you have. Now, the general rule of thumb is you want your mortgage payment to be no more than 24 to 28% of your income. However, this can be kind of variable depending on what your other expenses are, because some of you are going to say, I'd rather have a big car instead of a big home. And if that's the case, well, then you want your monthly payment to be even less than this, because now you're spending more money on your car. Now, I don't recommend you have a car payment, but these are the type of things that you have to think about. Some of you are going to say, you know what, I don't have any other expenses. I live extremely small, but I want a nicer home. Well, in that case, then this could potentially be higher. But you want to understand where this is. Like, I don't recommend you go into like 30% of your monthly payment, but I'm saying it can be on the higher end of this equation, depending on what is interesting in your life. But the key is you don't want to be stretching yourself thin to buy a home, because you always want to have a margin. You want to have cash that you can put aside towards your investments. You want to have cash that you can put aside towards your savings. If you're stretching yourself so thin that now you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you don't have money for savings, you don't have money for investments, just because you wanted to own a home and this is what you have to do to be a homeowner, well, now you're doing something wrong and your priorities are in the wrong place and you need to downsize. And another thing that I want to point out here when it comes to your monthly payments is there are ways for you to get a better interest rate on your mortgage. Like if you have a better credit score, well, now you're going to qualify for better mortgages. You're going to qualify for lower interest rates because banks look at you like an investment. And if you have a good down payment and you have a high credit score, you're a less risky investment. And a less risky investment comes with a lower interest rate for you. So maybe if you have a lower credit score, you don't have the cash for down payment, spend the next 6 to 12 months working to improve your financial score. That way now you have more cash for down payment, you have a better credit score. That way now you can go to the bank and get a lower interest rate, because now you can show that you are a safer investment. So while you have the whole world freaking out about the housing market, they're talking about how America's turning into a renter nation, this is where I want you to understand that there's more than one way to build true wealth, and it doesn't have to be through the home that you live in. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying a home, but you have to make sure that you can afford it first. And now you don't want to stretch yourself too thin to buy a home. So don't try to time the market. Understand how a home plays a part in your life. Buy a home that you can afford, because it's going to make your life a whole lot easier and it's going to give you cash. That way now you can actually invest in things that are going to make you wealthy and things that will pay you for owning them. There's one little issue with that. The richest people in the world aren't doctors. They're not people who work jobs. It's people who own and start businesses. The real American dream, this is something that I learned from a lot of hardship and a lot of doing, is that the real American dream is the ability to build a business.